Hello, it's time again for our regular feature, Chinese Folk Tales. I'm Wang Lu. Today we have a story from the Tibetan people who live in southwest China. It's called The Story of the Three Ganjiers. Once upon a time, there lived three men who all had the same name, Ganjier. One was the tribal chief, one a carpenter, and the other the chief steward. Ganjier the carpenter was married to an exceptionally beautiful woman. Ganjier the steward fancied her and dreamed day and night of having her for himself. Refused, he was driven to find some way of killing the carpenter. When the chief's father died, he saw in the event a golden opportunity to eliminate the carpenter. One day he brought to the chief a document and claimed he had come across it on a street. Ganjier the chief had his secretary decipher the paper written in the old-fashioned and esoteric calligraphy of the Buddhist scriptures. It turned out to be from the late chief. In it, he claimed he had ascended to heaven and needed an official mansion. He asked his son to send him a carpenter, the most skilled the son had, to oversee the construction of such a mansion. Ganjier the carpenter was sent for and ordered to go to heaven at once. The poor young man was greatly startled. He recognized it was a sinister plot by the steward. He dared not refuse, but he pleaded for time to prepare. He was given 7 days. On the 8th day, there would be a twig-burning ceremony in the hemp field behind their house to send him to heaven. Back home, the carpenter consulted with his wife. The two of them decided to dig a tunnel from the ceremonial site to their bedroom. In the following week, every day as darkness fell, they dug the tunnel in secret. They just managed to complete it in time. When the 8th day came, at the head of a retinue of elders and stewards, and with a great din of bugles and drums, the chief came to send the carpenter off. Ganjier the carpenter was asked to sit on a pile of kindling in the hemp field, his toolkit over his shoulder and his bag in one hand. The moment the kindling was lit and the smoke began rising into the sky, Ganjier the carpenter raised the trapdoor and escaped through the tunnel back to his own bedroom. He confined himself to his house for a whole year. His wife went to great lengths to find milk, butter, and other nutritious food for him. And as he did no work, by the end of that year, he was plumper and fairer skinned than ever. Meanwhile, Ganjier the steward tried 1,001 ways to seduce the carpenter's wife, and she used 1,001 ways to avoid him. On the first anniversary of his ascent to heaven, Ganjier the carpenter went and stood on the very spot where he was supposed to have been burnt, the same toolkit on his shoulder and the same bag in his hand. When he called out, his wife was the first to go look. She pretended to be extremely surprised and hurried to report the news to the chief. The chief was very happy and gave Ganjier the carpenter a hero's welcome with bugles and drums. He wanted to find out how his father was faring in heaven. The carpenter told him that a magnificent building was built, and the old chief was very satisfied, only that he missed his old steward and wanted to meet him in heaven. The chief was totally convinced by the story. He declared it was the steward's turn to go to heaven. Ganjier the steward could not understand the whole thing. He thought hard and came to the conclusion that he himself possessed some sort of magic power. Otherwise, how could the carpenter still be alive and ever so well? So he followed the carpenter's example and asked for 7 days to get ready. On the 8th day, as on a previous occasion, Ganjier the steward sat in the middle of the kindling with a box on his shoulder and a bag in his hand. As on the previous occasion, there was a great din of bugles and drums, and the chief gave the order to light the fire and send him off to heaven. But the outcome this time was rather different. The steward never came back. He stayed on in heaven forever to help the old chief manage his mansion. With that, we come to the end of this week's Chinese Folk Tales. I'm Wang Lu. Bye for now.